Welcome back to the Pesky Report, episode 532, presented by Beyond the Monster. I'm Jordan, joined by Kev. Welcome back, Kev, and Bayleigh. We are here to talk about some stuff that's actually happened for the Boston Red Sox. This is so cool. It's so early in the offseason.
Oh,
Like, this is not,
It's awesome.
it's
love it.
unfamiliar territory. This is
Right?
great. This
It
is
is.
great.
It's unfamiliar, and I think especially with the big names of the last two off seasons with Otani and Juan Soto, you knew there was going to be a wait, like you knew there was going to be a drawn out process, and I think obviously there's going to be a new CBA coming in the next year or so, and I know timeframes on free agency is a big topic. I don't know if that's something that we're going to get, but it's fun to have news. Anytime you have Red Sox news around Thanksgiving, it's just awesome.
Yeah, it's nice. And not even just the Red Sox, but also, the Dylan Cease signing, which we'll
Yes.
talk about it at some point. But
Mhm.
like that's a big name free agent signing before the winter meetings, and that's not
Yeah.
something that we've gotten used to. I mean, we're talking recently, like Bregman signed in February of 2025. We had the whole fiasco. I mean, even back in 2018, JD Martinez signed very late as well. Like
Yeah.
it's becoming a concerning trend. So for guys to start signing before December 1st it's just so much fun. Like I don't need every free agent to sign this early.
Yeah.
No.
But
And a Boris guy going this early
yeah,
is
Well,
a
that-
little crazy.
Yeah, Bailey, you nailed that. A Boris, the Boris guys usually hang on the longest, right? Because they want the most years, they want the most money, and I get it. Listen, Boris he's good at what he does, but you also have to realize there was an upper echelon of teams, big market teams that weren't spending as much.
Mhm.
So, although yes, players have been moving around, Yankees got Max Fried and things like that, but what was it 2 years ago? The Boris Four with Montgomery and Chapman, and none of those guys got their true market value that year, and it was
Nope.
just a very very kind of odd scene, I guess, to set up for Boris clients.
all of them signed late.
Yeah.
Two
Oh
of
yeah,
them got
all late.
hurt. Like Monty
Snell was
and
real
Snell both
weird
got
too.
hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was the Boris Four, and they all just very underwhelming.
Yeah, and it was kind of crazy to see 7 years, 210. And I love Cease. Like I love the underlying metrics. I love the strikeout number, but to see him truly get that much, kind of wild. Like actually.
That, and I think the notion behind Toronto wanting to spend over the
Oh
last
yeah.
few years. I mean, this goes back to Judge, right? Like, his free agency. And then obviously the fake plane with Otani or whatever
Otani's
that was.
en route.
Yeah, he's en route. He's en route. And then Toronto's been looking to spend money and obviously locking up, Vlad Guerrero Jr. on
Mhm.
his extension. Now Dylan Cease, before Thanksgiving, and maybe this wasn't a blip this season. This postseason run. We don't know what's going to happen with Bo, right? We don't know if they're going to be able to retain him and how he's going to test the market, but they've been looking to spend, and Dylan Cease was the beneficiary of that this offseason.
Yeah, it's like it kind of had to be one of those, like for especially we talk about it being a Boris client. It's like it made me feel like Toronto was like, we're gonna offer this, and Boris was probably like, shit, we're never gonna get better than this. Like, jump on this and a chance to, win and be in a pretty damn good rotation.
Yeah, I mean all righties.
Yeah.
Very righty heavy.
Oh,
All
it's just
five
all
starters are
five righties.
right-handed.
Yeah,
All
because that's right. Because like the last big lefty they had like Robbie Ray, and that was a while ago.
Yeah, and
So,
this past season, like Eric Lauer factored into the rotation.
Mm.
yep.
I think he made like 15 starts for them, but
Oh,
he's like nothing. He's not, a mainstay in a rotation. But
yeah.
that rotation's still sick. I mean, they've got 3 high-end starters. If you want to count Trey Savage as one, even though I think he's probably more like a year or two away from being that.
Mm-hmm.
That's 4 guys that are like, I mean, he made his hay in the postseason. Those are
Yeah.
some studs that they got
Oh,
over
oh
there in
yeah.
Toronto. That's gonna be a problem to deal with. Although I will say with Cease, it's like I've soured on him a bit. I really liked him when he was with Chicago, and then when the time came to trade for him, I was all about the Red Sox dealing for him at the
Mm.
time. And then he got to San Diego, and he finished top 5 in Cy Young voting in 2024. And then Dylan Cease became Dylan Cease again in 2025. It's like he just strikes me similar to Clay Buchholz. Like his
Mm.
stuff is nasty. He
Great
gets
stuff.
the strikeouts. Sometimes he has some walk issues. He can give up a home run every once in a while. But he can't stack. Like he doesn't have 2 seasons that emulate each other ever. Like and on one hand, that's good because he doesn't have 2 bad years in a row. On the other hand, really bad because he doesn't have 2 good years in a row. Like
Yeah.
he's been a Cy Young candidate 2 of the last 4 years and just an ordinary pitcher the other 2.
Mm-hmm.
You
And
know,
I think it's just a lot of money to give to such a wild card kind
Yes.
of pitcher. But for a team like Toronto, one, you landed a big name free agent. That's something you've
Mm-hmm.
been unable to do really. I mean, Springer and Gosman are big names, but they weren't like headlining the free agent class like Cease was for the pitching
Yeah.
market. And then 2, that's a team that wants to be a big market team, and that's what big market teams do. They're like, fuck it. I don't care if we set the pitching market. I don't care if this makes Framber Valdez get 6 for 200. We want Dylan
Crazy.
Cease. We're going to make sure we get Dylan Cease.
Yeah.
yeah, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head right there with setting the pitcher market, right? Because you do have some names out there, right? You got Michael King, you got Merrill Kelly, right? Is out there, and these are not guys that we would think in the 100 to 120 to 150. I'm obviously factoring years as well, that kind of range. But now you've set the mark, you've set the barometer, right? and
Mm-hmm.
and if Cease was the top of this class, um you know 210's not a bad way to set the mood.
Yeah, especially age range wise. I just looked it up. Like Michael King is also 30. So it's being
Yes.
like, are we expecting, and I really like Michael King, but it's like, where is he gonna fall on? And it's like that years thing. Like the idea of like 30 million a year to Dylan Cease over 7 years is kind of like a lot of money. So I'm just like, where do you put a Michael King? Because I would love if the Sox are like, F it, go out and get like a Michael King. I know he's been hurt and it was like a thoracic outlet area, which is a little scary. So that's my thing, is like, where is his money going to fall?
Yeah, he just screams pillow contract to me. I think he's getting a 1-year deal somewhere. And to me,
Yeah.
like, I think this offseason is where we really see if those mid-market teams are serious about competitive balance because the
Mhm.
Dodgers, outside of the outfield, probably in high leverage reliever, because that's been what's been reported.
Yeah.
They're not going to be touching a lot of the high name players on the market. They don't need another starting pitcher, so they're not going to
Yeah.
be in the King market. They're not going to be in the Frommer market. But if a team like Pittsburgh, which so far early indications are they're actually looking to spend, I mean, they apparently were right there for Josh Naylor. They want
I would
Kyle
love it.
Schwarber. They've talked to Pete Alonso. Like they're doing their due diligence. But this is the offseason for those mid market teams to make some noise. And I think a guy like Michael King makes a ton of sense for a mid market team, especially one that was kind of on the bubble this past season. Like Miami makes a lot of sense, although apparently that's not likely. But the A's, to me, like that would be such a good landing spot for him. The A's were a top 10 offense this past season. Sign him to a 1-year deal, make him a trivia question like you did Severino last year, give him like 25 mil for 1 year, and you can see how close you are to being a good team. Are you
Mhm.
really 1 starter away? Are you 2 starters away? And if King sucks, your offense is still great and you're kind of on the fringe of the playoffs again, then you're like, maybe we just need to make 1 or 2 good moves. And I mean, the AOS stinks.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that trade that happened too at some point. After let's do it after we talk about Sonny Gray. At
Mhm.
the end of the day, this is a Red Sox podcast. um,
Is it? No. Yeah.
eh, Hey, the Celtics pod that Jack and I do with Jamie Gatlin, we talk about pretty much everything that's not the Celtics, and then we're like, by the way, the
Oh yeah,
Celtics
that's
either
right.
won or lost this game. Um, but it's a fun free agent market for those mid market teams. I think that's going to be what I find fascinating to watch.
And I just want to touch on that a little bit because there was an article that came out, I think it was 2 days ago, 3 days ago, where the Royals were looking for an outfielder. And obviously the first name that popped up on everyone's feed was Jarren Duran. And this is going to be a familiar. I think we got to kind of buckle into this whole Jarren Duran and Wilyer Abreu endless conversation of what's going to go on this offseason. But the Royals, yeah, I look at them as a mid market team, maybe even on the lower end of the mid market teams. But if they're even looking to go out and trade some of their arms or whatever the case or wherever depth they may have, and there's more bigger market guys like the Jarren Duran and the Boston Red Sox involved, for me it's just good for baseball. Like that's just my personal opinion. But it's fun, like I said, and I'm not going to be a dead horse that we're getting this news nationally, not just, and we're going to get into Sonny Gray and things like that. But it's just cool to have the national stuff kind of popping off.
Yeah, I do wonder what the resolution. Like, I mean, I know that's kind of above what the Red Sox actually do as far as adding to the roster. Like what they do to subtract from the roster is like probably the number one story still. Like people want, I mean, it makes sense. People want a resolution to the outfield conundrum here. You have
Yeah.
4 really good outfielders, 3 spots. And like we can pretend Yoshida's not there. I know a lot of people want to pretend Yoshida's not there, but
I love Yoshida.
I love Masa.
I love
It would be
I
better for
love
the
that.
team if he wasn't there as far as
100%.
like constructing next year's roster.
Mhm.
But to give the man his flowers, he was one of the only dudes that showed up in October. So
Yeah.
like let's give him his respect, but at the same
Yeah.
time, how is this outfield conundrum resolved? And if like I think we all are in agreement, the odd man out, if there is an odd man out, is Duran. But is he for a bat? Is he for an arm? Is he for prospect capital? Like how are we going about uh moving off Duran? And then again, it's not like Abreu is, the safest dude on the planet either. Like if at the end of the day, if it's a deal breaker to get I don't know, to throw a name out there to get, Tarek Skubal if he's truly available. And the Tigers are like, we're not trading for Jarren Duran. It's got to be Wilyer Abreu. Sorry, Wilyer. Like, I love you, my guy, but get
It's
ready to learn
so
Comerica Park because
it's
Tarek Skubal.
it's so tough when it's a rental. No,
Yeah.
I love Tarek, and I'm kind of like the idea of like, yes, but there's just so much upside for Willier. Like there's 30 home run power. It's a Gold Glove right field. Like, are you willing to give that up for just for like I do love the comparison for the Juan Soto of pitching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, granted, the Yankees went to the World Series with that one season of Juan Soto, and he was fantastic in pinstripes. But then he goes and signs a $760 million deal to go to Queens.
Not to cut you off
Oh,
on your thought, though, how much different is it for the Yankees if Juan Soto was the Juan Soto of pitching in 2024? Because having a 1-2 punch of Crochet and Skubal, like that's 4, like in a best of 7, they're
I know.
getting 4 games.
Yeah, and you're probably winning the World Series.
Yeah,
And I do
you're
get
probably
that.
winning at least 3 of them. So like
Yeah.
it's definitely a worthwhile discussion. Like how crazy are you willing to get for a guy who's only going to
Yeah.
pitch for you? Let's play the absolute maximum, like 35 starts the regular season plus we'll throw 5 more in the postseason. So you might get 40 games out of him. How crazy are you willing to get him? And I mean, he may not even be available, but just as
Probably
a
isn't, but
hypothetical.
it's like
Yeah.
I would give a lot up to get him because that is a great example. But my whole thing would be, and I know it's going to cost you $400+ million, but I don't give a shit. I'm the Boston Red Sox. I say to him day one, hey, welcome to Boston. We're going to do everything to win a World Series. We just paired you with, the light version of you, the thicker version, but the second place. So we have like the number 1 and the number 2. Like we're looking for a number 2. Maybe he was there all along and we needed Tarek Skubal. Like you don't know.
Yeah.
So it's like
Garrett Crochet is the number 2. That would be
right?
stupid, like ridiculous.
Hilarious.
It's just crazy to say out loud. You know what I mean? Like,
and I would love it. And then do you look at him and do you say to him and Boris, we're going to offer you $400 million. And do you still say, I'm going to free agency because I could get 450? I mean, it's going to be so tough to say. At that point, you've blown away Yamamoto and you were the highest paid pitcher of all time.
With all the pitching injuries, I can't see a scenario where a pitcher is offered $40 million a year and says no.
Right?
Like you're getting paid over $1 million per start. I don't see a world where a pitcher says no to that.
Exactly. So if I trade for him, that's what I'm doing. I don't care. You are the Boston Red Sox. You could figure something out, especially with the fact that you have pretty much a cost-controlled Garrett Crochet. So you've got your ace, you've got your cost control, and then you've got mini aces maybe coming up with Tolle and Early, and then we're going to be all lefties. But hey,
we're the antithesis of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yes.
Exactly.
We're just throwing lefties that throw 95 plus at you.
That just throw the nastiest shit on the planet.
And then it's valid that you're like, okay, you gave up Willie or Brayan and whomever else. Like you probably don't have Tolle or Early, or you don't have one of them in this scenario either. So you decide which one you're going to keep. The other one's going to Comerica Park. So it's like you just decide at that point. It's worth it if, yes, one, you get that year and then you're giving him all the money because he's going to get that money regardless. Like if you want to go after him or you have that tiny little window of being like, here's 400 million. Why do you want to go to free agency when you can just be a Boston Red Sox for the rest of your career and we're going to be chasing rings? Like, I don't know.
And prior to the show, Jordan and I were talking about this, and it's like, if you do go and get a Tariq, right, and you bolster that insane pitching rotation, you're going to have to take hits on the lineup, right? Yeah. Like you're going to have to take hits on the lineup. You're going to have to, as we were talking about beforehand, the growing pains of Marcelo Meyer maybe being an everyday third baseman, Christian Campbell coming back into the mix, what outfielder goes, what if I have to see one more mock lineup of Sedan at second base, I'm going to lose
kill me now.
I'm going to lose my freaking mind. But that's where the depth is. And if you don't move from that depth, it's it's kind of a reality, and it's just, I guess back to the original point, if you're moving for the arms, and I'm talking serious arms, I'm not talking the mid-grades. If you're moving for arms, I think then you're going to see the lineup kind of take a little bit of a hit.
Yeah. And I think the lineup could take a little bit of a hit this offseason anyways, because we're always the idea of like, it bothers me that it's like you have to have one or the other when you're the Boston Red Sox and you're the third most valued franchise in the game. But it's like the idea of like, oh, okay, so they went out and got Sonny Gray, which we will get into talking about. Don't you worry, listeners. At some point. And so you have Sonny Gray. And then Jordan will get into why he's a number 2. And I've been coming more and more around to what you've been reading, like writing, and I've been reading, and I've been like, he's probably right. But it's like, okay, I still want somebody else. It doesn't have to be that like number 2, oh my God. But I would like somebody else just for a little more depth there. And so it's like you have that. And then it's like, okay, they're going to go out and they're going to hopefully get Bregman, but they also can't get somebody else. And that just bothers me on just like every fiber of my being when you're the Boston Red Sox and you're just like penny pinching here and there. Oh, we can't. Like, that's what really gets me. It's like, you can do this. And then you can make yourself unequivocally the best team in the American League. Will they? We don't know, but you can do it. And it's feasible, especially this offseason.
Yeah. And before we get into the Sonny Gray stuff specifically, I do want to play this little tidbit of Craig Breslow's recent media session where he was talking about trading for Sonny Gray, just because I think this is very telling of potentially some lessons learned by him, just in his couple of years here. I'll play it right now.
You can't perfectly dictate timelines. And I think in 2 short years here, I've learned that when you have an opportunity in front of you that makes sense, you need to act on it.
Like, and to Tyler's tweet I don't know if the people watching it on YouTube probably got a chance to read it, but that's how you end up with Dustin May at the trade deadline. You put all your
100%.
eggs in one basket, swinging for Joe Ryan. Joe Ryan doesn't get dealt, and oh shit, we still need a starter. Let's get Dustin May because he's available, and we know that he'll be cheap.
Oh my
And
God.
that was a disaster. But I think that's part of why I love this trade so much for Sonny Gray. And it's not just because 3 days before it happened, I made a mock roster that had Sonny Gray as the number 2 in the Red Sox rotation.
I've been wanting
only...
him for a while, and I make my own at home, so nobody will believe me when I said I've wanted him slotted in there for quite a while now. I've been a huge Sonny Gray fan, so
yeah.
And this happened on my birthday, so it's a nice little birthday present for me.
Nice.
Yeah. Happy belated birthday.
Happy
Thank you.
But yeah, I really like this trade for the Red Sox for like the main reason is how early in the offseason it was. Cause it's like, as much as I believe they still need to add to their rotation, it's less of a priority. They know that they have the security of somebody as good as Sonny Gray in the 2 spot where they feel comfortable. You know, if he has to start game 2 of a playoff series, they're already okay with that. And they got their guy. If they want to trade Jarren Duran and or Willie Abreu to get a bat, they can do that. If that pitcher that they really want becomes available, that's going to cost one of or both of those guys, they can go that route as well. But now they're not sitting here waiting and hoping that Hunter Green or Tarek Skubal is available on, February 5th. And we're sitting here with a rotation that still has Brayan Bello slotted in the 2, and they brought Lucas Giolito back and he's the 3. And we're like, it's just 2025 all over again.
Yeah.
They have Sonny Gray. At the very least, they have he would have been the second best pitcher in their rotation this past season. And, if that guy becomes available, it's like, oh shit, we could go and have Sonny Gray as our 3 starter, Bello as our 4, Bello as our 5 with Conley Early as the 4, and we can get Hunter Green or Joe Ryan or Tarek Skubal. I mean, Joe Ryan in that case is like a polar bear in Arlington, Texas, but like but then they can go that route when/if the guy becomes available. And I think that's the beauty of, and it's kind of been what Craig Breslow's off seasons have looked like. It's like, oh, he is an animal in the off season. You give him a concrete deadline, this man turns into fucking brain mush. But
It's mush, yeah.
I feel like we're starting to see a timeline of what Breslow wants to do this offseason, right? Like I feel like the Bregman situation, the Pete Alonso situation, the bat situation. Okay, I'll condense it into that. It sounded like Breslow had a plan, because after he was talking about the Sonny Gray trade, the shift in the focus in all the writers for the Red Sox were, well, now we need to talk about the bats, right? It was like, well, okay, well, they went and got Sonny Gray, who would have been, to Jordan's point, the Red Sox second best starter in 2025. But now it's like, no, now we can go focus on the other fun stuff out there. And there's Kyle Schwarber, and there's Pete Alonso, and there's a couple guys from overseas. And like, it's just, maybe there is a method to Breslow's madness, and we're all just coming around to it.
I think part of, like, I think the biggest kept secret of this offseason is that offense has kind of always been what they needed more than pitching, if that makes sense. Like, they lost game 2 and Bello got taken out early, and that kind of signified this whole they need a true number 2 starter dialogue again. Like, it reignited it that we had at the deadline, and then they pitched so well that it was like, oh, maybe they didn't. Maybe they were already in-house. And then obviously that changed in the playoffs. But they scored 3 runs in game 2 and then got shut out in game 3. Bello didn't pitch well, but you only gave up 4 runs in game 2. And then you only
can
gave up
overcome
4
that.
runs again in game 3. Like, that's not an insignificant amount of runs. It's not like you got blitzed for 8. And it's like, well, if we had somebody, better equipped to start that game, and maybe that's still the case. Because playoff games, you can't always count on scoring 6 runs to win. But they didn't score enough. And Roman is a big bat. Like, that's like getting him for more than 71 games, God willing, is huge. That is a big bat that you're acquiring this offseason, is a full year of Roman Anthony. You need to bring Bregman back, like, bar none for me. Like, that's got to be, that takes precedent over getting that marquee first baseman that hits 35 to 40 home runs. Like you
Because we
need
might
Bregman
have
back.
him if he does, and his name is Tristan Casas, if he
Yeah.
just doesn't, like explode his body again. And that you can't rely on these things. But the idea is like people are talking about the idea of like Bregman being number one and then a complimentary bat. I'm kind of okay with that if you really slot somebody else in there. If you're pushing Sonny Gray to a 3 and then like legitimately Brayan Bello as your 4, like you have the best rotation in the American League. Like if you truly have a 1, 2, 3 in front of Bello at 4. And then the idea is like, does your offense need to be as powerful that you need to get Bregman and Alonso, Bregman and Kyle Schwarber? Would I love that? Hell yes, do it. Please do it. You're the Red Sox. But like, do you have to do it if you have such a strong rotation? Like that's like another big question. And I know that's been floating out there on Twitter and in other podcasts. Like, do you just need a complimentary to go with Bregman? It's like, how do you guys feel about that?
What? You're right, Kev.
Yeah, so in a perfect world, yes, right? Like that, it's not my money. B, it's not my play. I love the team and I love these players and things like that. But if it meant dealing for a bat or signing, it would be signing a bat, first off. But would I like to see Schwarber back, right? I
Of
think
course.
absolutely. Would I like to see Pete Alonso and what he could do at Fenway Park? Just absolutely, just peppering the ball to the monster. I think that would be, another 30 home run guy. I'm sorry, I'm not. I know every year, and it really is starting to bother me because every offseason we go, well, we have that guy. We have that. He's Tristan Casas. We have him, and we have him, and it's like we've had a few years now of Tristan Casas where it's like, is he that guy? Like, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm not trying to what
Yeah.
he.
When healthy, yes.
We're
It's been
saying
healthy.
right. Just be healthy, right? Take a solid approach at the plate because let's be honest, his approach was getting better before you got hurt, but started the season a little slow. And I'm not one of these blasters, right? I love Tristan Casas. I love his personality. I love what he does for this team. But when it comes to a complimentary bat to Bregman, when you're looking at first base, my rant is over. It's it's probably Pete Alonso.
Yeah, I think there's like this misconception with some people on social media where if you're like they don't need to like there's a obviously every fan wants them to sign the best player at every position that they need an upgrade at. Like if we're playing, this bottomless pit of money that they just have at their disposal, which they do, every owner in baseball does. Let's make that abundantly clear. These guys are
Yeah.
super wealthy. They can afford any player they want if they want them badly enough. Yeah, would I make JT Realmuto the most expensive backup catcher in the league? Absolutely. He's the best catcher on the market. The Red Sox need a better catcher. Connor Wong can enjoy Worcester, and JT Realmuto can make $16 million as the Red Sox backup catcher. But there is a level of that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So if they are going to get another catcher, maybe it's Danny Jansen again. I know I just made some people start shaking violently in the corner by bringing
one
up
of them.
Dan Jan. But like, it could be Victor Caratini. It could be somebody like if you're spending big at one spot, you're taking hits somewhere else. And this was something that Kevin and I were talking about before you joined the room, Bayleigh. That I look at this offseason as going, there's a few different ways they could go. Like they've got Sonny Gray already. So they can go and if the lineup is sick, which they can absolutely do that, they bring Bregman back, they get Pete Alonso, they get Kyle Schwarber, they get Okamoto. I know that Okamoto is an unknown because he's coming from overseas, but I put him closer to that tier of hitter than I do like just, the Ryan O'Hearns and the Josh Naylors. Like he's closer to that serious impact bat.
Love that.
But then we're probably gonna have to be content with the number 2 starter being Sonny Gray, and I think they'll add another starter. It just might be bringing back Giolito, which I wouldn't be thrilled about. I'd be okay with it. I'd be like kind of like whatever. We'll to steal Santi from Twitter's movement hashtag. We'll wait and see
Oh my God.
about that. But and if the rotation's sick, then we'll deal with, as Kev mentioned earlier, the growing pains of the lineup with Marcelo playing third base every single day, and Christian Campbell factoring back into 100+ games at the major league level, and we'll deal with it that way. Now, ideally, there's a happy medium where they get somebody better than Giolito as their second starter. They bring Bregman back because, again, optically, I feel like that has to happen. Like you can't let
It has to happen.
You can't blow up your relationship with Devers for 1 year of Alex Bregman. But there's a level of unpredictability about baseball that the people in the front offices probably can do a better job of predicting because they have access to way more data than we do. But like, did anybody think Aroldis Chapman was going to be the best reliever in baseball this year?
Crazy.
And he was.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Easily.
We were all pissed that it wasn't Tanner Scott. Tanner Scott had an ERA of almost 4.
Terrible. He was terrible.
He wasn't. They just won the World Series. He didn't even pitch in October for them.
Him
I mean, he
or
was hurt.
Kirby.
He was hurt. So I mean, and so was Kirby Yates. They're both injured. But like we wanted Kirby Yates. We wanted Tanner Scott. They got to roll the Chapman. Now, again, that was more off the field related than I think. I think the off the field stuff made the on the field stuff a little bit more exaggerated.
Yes.
But
if
nobody thought.
I would have been thrilled if he wasn't like
a scumbag.
And I would have been thrilled not even understanding that he was going to pitch the way he did.
Yeah.
Because
at the end of the day, he's a super talented arm, but we didn't think he was going to be the best reliever in baseball, and he ended up being that. And like, as good as whoever they get as their number 2 starter, if it's Gray, if it's if that guy becomes available that they get, and we're like, holy shit, maybe Crochet's the number 2, which
in our
that'd be hilarious. It's not going to happen, just to temper everyone's expectations.
If it does, I will bow at the feet that is Craig Breslow.
But whoever the number 2 starter is, will they be better than what you got from May through August of Brayan Bello or Lucas Giolito? Probably not. There was like 11 starters in the American League last year that had an ERA of 3.32 or better. And that was what Giolito's was from May through August. Bello's was 2.9. Not a lot of guys do that.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of guys out there you can get that would pitch to a 2.9 ERA. They're all in the Dodgers or Garrett Crochet or Tarek Skubal or Paul Skeens.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, Paul Skeens. See, I want, like, you're talking a little bit about how Pittsburgh is like putting feelers out there. I would love if they let Ben Cherington spend, because Ben Cherington got a world championship in 2013 when he was allowed to spend, but like spend in like a kind of funky way. Like nobody thought that the 2013 Red Sox were going to win the World Series except for Dustin Pedroia. So like the idea is like if they're allowed to kind of just do something, like being able to build around Paul Skeens, like I want to see Paul Skeens win in his prime. Like why wouldn't you? And I would love that. Pittsburgh's a beautiful ballpark. Like I would love their fans to win. So it's like I would love to see these small market teams kind of go out there and be a little more funky, because I know no matter what, they're not going to spend on the level of like the Dodgers, because like we said, they just won't. So go out there and do a little something. Make your team good. I want competitive teams. I want to beat the best, man. That's why like in 2004, that's like that team was so good and they beat the best. They beat the Yankees, and then even though they steamrolled the shit out of St. Louis had like 100 wins that year. They were like the best team in baseball. I want that back. I just want all this competitive. I don't want to be like just steamrolling all these teams for the sake of it, because there's only like 4 good teams. Like I want that glory of like the best teams are out there and you're beating them. So we'll see. We'll see if they're allowed to spend.
I think what you're getting to is you want to see more parity around the league, right?
Yeah, I would love it.
We were talking about that a little bit earlier with some of these mid-market teams looking to
get in there,
to make splashes with the big markets, right? And for me, and I hate to keep going back because I have to, because I've been doing it for a few years now, but it all comes back to the CBA for me. And if the small markets need to start spending, right, and if the mid markets need to start spending, or there's a safe zone, I don't know how it would work. Maybe they're already getting ahead of the curve, right? And they're saying, okay, revenue sharing might be gone, right? Like that might be something that we take off the table, because it's the BS that the Yankees and the Mets and the Dodgers and the Red Sox are paying for 18 other teams to
be terrible,
to be terrible, right? So So I think, just to kind of hammer that point home of the parity, right, around the league, right? You want to beat the best. And it all started
Yeah.
with a conversation with Paul Skeens. And the Paul Skeens trade narratives or whatever, however you want to toss it out there, to me, it's blasphemy. Let Ben Charrington spend a little bit. And they don't
Please.
have to be, a top 5 payroll. Just go out there, put a competitive team together, and you have a lot of good young talent that it could be a fun team. But we're not a Pirates podcast, by the way.
No, but I
No, but
like
happily would be if they spent money and they were
Yeah.
good, and we could be like, oh my god, the Pirates are good. That's crazy. I mean, they've got so many intriguing players, but then it's
Yes.
like you got to add some punch to that team. I mean, like if O'Neal Cruz was a superstar caliber player, then we'd maybe be talking about them a little differently. But he isn't, and unfortunately,
He just
and
got a
unfortunately,
lot of power.
yeah, he's got a ton of pop. But he absolutely sold my home run derby bets because he's an asshole. But hashtag not gambling advice. But
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, it'd be so nice if this offseason, because again, this is not an offseason full of star caliber players. I mean, there
No.
are obviously like Cody Bellinger and Kyle
Yeah.
Tucker and Pete Alonso, like there are stars, but like this is the offseason for those mid-market teams to narrow the gap a bit, because I think if
Yeah.
the CBA dialogue here, if they added a salary cap, all that would do is take the top spenders. They'd have to sell off these higher price players, and you know where they'd end up? On a different big market team that also spends money, that just maybe came in second place to the Dodgers in all these free agent negotiations. Now if it's the Blue Jays, then it's whatever, like they're thrilled, but it's not going to create competitive balance in the sense that, oh, now the Guardians have a shot at getting Shohei Ohtani. They weren't even there. Like
Right.
Shohei didn't
Yeah.
even know they were a team.
Yeah.
Like as for sake of his own contract negotiations. Like,
It's so crazy, Jordan. Up until about 30 seconds ago, I would always spitball the idea of what a salary cap would really look like in baseball, and you kind of just solidified it for me. It's like it doesn't solve everything. I
Not at
think
all.
so many people are so frustrated with the luxury tax, right? Because then it becomes a price point, right? And if the Red Sox don't hit that price point, it's like, well, you're the third, highest revenue team in the sport. Why are we not going above that? Right.
Mhm.
And then you have to add in, revenue sharing, as I was talking about earlier. But what Jordan kind of, I'm going to summarize it up, is it's not, I don't think it adds the competitive balance that all of a sudden these teams are just going to spend money just because there's just a salary cap. Right. Like, yes, they will, like, they'll have to fall within the guidelines of what happens, but you're still going to have the big market teams. Yes, are you going to have stretches where maybe teams we wouldn't normally see have success might have more success? Yeah, but once again, they're not getting Juan Soto, they're not getting Shohei Ohtani. Like, I just don't see it happening. So I guess it, long-winded, but it doesn't solve a competitive balance issue.
no, and I think it just makes the gap wider from those small market teams from the rest of the big market teams. Like I know that baseball cares mostly about their bottom line. So if the playoffs are sick, they're happy. They don't care
Yeah.
who's there as long as the playoffs are sick, and every series goes the distance. They get as many eyes as possible, and stars on a variety of teams instead of all congregating on the Dodgers is better for the game.
Mhm.
But thinking about it as like removing myself from the Red Sox here, as a baseball fan, I want those teams that don't spend money, that are like $150 million for payroll. Like that's still a sizable amount of money. That
Yeah.
just might mean you don't have the superstar caliber talent that the Mets or the Dodgers have. But those teams having a chance, but they also have to put in that effort to make sure they have a chance. Like I think Trevor May is like, he's fantastic as far as the content he puts out on
Mhm.
his YouTube.
Mhm.
He talked about how in the last CBA, the owners proposed a salary cap of like $180 million. That's $30 million short of what the first threshold of
Yeah.
luxury tax was
That's
at the time.
crazy.
And with a floor of $100 million, that would have affected, he said that arrangement would have affected 3 teams. like 3 teams would have had to dramatically alter their spending
Yeah.
as far as like teams that don't spend money. So like a team like the Brewers who are concerned about payroll, they're 18th in
Fight
payroll
me.
and their projected
Yeah,
payroll is
yes.
$118 million. That's their projected tax payroll. Like that is the team that's the problem with the game. It is not the Dodgers.
100%.
I mean, the Dodgers signing everybody is annoying. That's
That's the
like
annoyance. They're the
it takes
annoyance.
Well,
it makes it less fun.
it was kind of Shohei broke baseball, right? Because we
Yeah.
haven't seen it before, right?
Welcome
Like
back,
that's
Kevin Durant.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden it's like, you know what's so funny too? And I want to point this out because we're like, 40 minutes into this, and
Still
we
haven't really talked
haven't
about Sonny
mentioned
Gray, by the way.
Kyle Tucker. We haven't mentioned Kyle Tucker once because
Which is hilarious.
I just always assume that he's a Dodger. Like I don't look at him as like a guy who's going to test the free agency market with multiple teams, right? Like it's going to be the Dodgers. There may be a 1A or a 1B situation with him just in case it doesn't work out with LA, but I'm just like, oh, he's a Dodger already.
Mhm.
But to spin it back, there is no incentive when when the owners go to the table and say, hey, listen, we're going to come up with a salary cap, right? Which is really just a ghost kind of term, right? Because like you said, it's a $30 million difference that affects 3 teams in the entire sport,
Mhm.
right? We're not talking about the supermax in the
Yeah.
NBA. We're not talking about a hard cap, like a really hard cap in the NFL. Hockey's even a little tough on their salaries as is. Like I think we're looking for parity in the league as we go back to that. It's just not going to come in the sense that I think people are going to be used to, I
Mhm.
guess is the best way to put it.
I feel like a fun way to go about this would be just having max contracts in baseball. Like there's no salary cap, but
Mm.
like gone are those double-digit year contracts. No deferred money. Like deferred money no longer exists. Like you have to pay everybody you sign, and any deal that has deferred money in it, like that's grandfathered in. But
Mm.
future contracts, if you sign the guy, you are paying them for the duration of their contract. Like there's no deferred money there. Like that's a thing that I
I
think
couldn't
could be
agree.
worked
I
in.
couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And like
Be
because
very interesting.
because like you end up with Shohei Ohtani's the next owner's problem. Like the next
Yes.
owner's paying him $68 million a year. Like
If
it's
you
Yeah.
think a second that the minute that ninth and a half year starts rolling around in that deal, that the articles are going to be nuts with LA ownership group getting rid of the Dodgers.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
then it
They're
all comes
so
to a
rich
head.
though. That
I
ownership
know
group
it's
is so
insane.
rich.
They'll
And
convert that 68 million a year to like ownership equity, and Ohtani will
yeah,
own the Dodgers, and then
no
Ohtani will
shit.
then that'd be kind of sick. Like now that I think about it, that'd be kind of cool. But
Yeah.
but I don't want to manifest that.
No. But it's like we get to a point where like a team like the Dodgers that is getting old right now, but they've won, like back-to-back championships. They have their little Mickey Mouse ring. So like they've won two and a half in this time period that they've, had like Mookie Betts. Like Mookie Betts was the first real start of like and it's kind of funny to think that Mookie Betts was the start of their dynasty when they had gone to back-to-back championships. They
Thanks, Sean
lost.
Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like there's that idea though. It's like, okay, Henry won't pay you. And now Mookie Betts' contract is like maybe the steal of the century. We'll see how it's going. Like maybe he was truly sick and he's not regressing, but if he's regressing hard, they still have already won 3
They-
rings with him. So when
yes.
do they care that like or when is their window over? Or when do they give a shit? Like, cause I don't think they give a shit because they've already won. Because they get to a point where it's like, oh, that contract's gonna look real bad, last 4, 5, 6. But if they've won 5 rings it's like, do you care? I wouldn't give 2 shits.
I would not care at all. I would
So
not
you're
care at
just
all.
kind of like, that's the thing with like length and everything. I'm like, yeah, the Dodgers were immediately like, oh yeah, you want all your money, you want $365 million, which was a steal for him because he would have got way more if COVID didn't happen. And now I always kind of like retro back with like, oh, what if the Red Sox didn't trade him and then COVID happens? Do we get him on like a really good deal because he's terrified to test the free agent market? Doubt it, because I don't think he really wanted to be here. But like
Yeah.
that's always the what ifs, Like, what if he actually went to free agency? But it's like, and I still think the Dodgers retain him no matter what. They're the Dodgers. But you get to a point where it's like, how much are you willing to spend years and money to dish out to get the, get the satisfaction in the front half of a contract as opposed to the back half of it? Because the Dodgers are going to crash at some point, I think, with just everybody getting old. But who cares if they just win in this now that we're in?
And I think that's the mindset, right? The mindset that they put in all their chips, right?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with the reports that, or I shouldn't say this. I'm skeptical with the reports that other high market value teams were given the same option as the Dodgers, right? With the deferred money with Ohtani. And it just so happens that, 5 or 6 of these teams were like, no, we would never do that because it's unethical and it kind of breaks baseball. And the Dodgers all along were like,
Okay.
well, we'll do it. We'll do it. Like he was going to be a Dodger one way or another.
I knew it immediately.
Yeah,
We all
it just
did.
so happened that he broke baseball by doing it, and we talked about it.
Yeah.
Like, you have to take deferred money off the table because not everybody is making the same money off the field, right? So
Mhm.
Shohei Ohtani dominates essentially, the world market. But let's
Yeah.
just break it down to Japan, US, and obviously Toronto teams watching. By the way, just played in a World Series against them. So like, you then have the Juan Sotos of the world where he's like, no, I want my money now, right?
Yeah.
I think Garrett Cole only deferred, I think it was between 5 and 10% of his deal, which is
Mhm.
like the standard deferment, right?
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
no, I want my money now. I always wanted to be a Yankee, but I want it now.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's the luxury that people have, and I know that a lot of these Dodger players have taken larger deferments that we see.
Yeah.
I don't see that. I think it's just kind of blip on the radar. It's something that baseball is going to move past, and we're all going to move past with it. Can I guarantee that? I don't know, but I will think something would be put in place.
Mm.
It's definitely a point of contention for now, and it's going to be very. I mean, I don't know. I think in some ways we've talked up this 2027 lockout so much that it's actually
Yeah.
going to be underwhelming how
When-
much base like we're going to end up losing. It's going to be similar to 2022. Like
Yeah.
we may
Yeah,
lose
I
a
think
week
so.
of the season. They'll just bake in more double headers. We'll still get 162. And
Yeah, I agree.
like we'll play this game again in 2030, 2030 again, or
Mhm.
2031 when the next CBA is due. Like I think that's kind of where we're at, where we've overrated it so much that now it's become like it's not gonna meet expectations. And maybe
Do
that's
you
part of the
think?
pessimistic approach. It's like, oh, if we are so doom and gloom about it, we will be content as long as we get our full season.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
It'd be
I
nice.
agree.
And maybe that's wishful thinking. That's kind of what but
Yeah.
But you know how the point that we know the Dodgers are going to be done this year because the Red Sox got Sonny Gray. How's
Hell
that
Yeah,
for a
yes.
segue?
100%.
I love that
100%. Oh
segue.
yeah.
Sonny
How's
And
Gray.
that
also,
segue?
for a guy who's had such a career as Sonny Gray has, and
At 5'10".
yeah, and well documented, and he's coming in, and it's so funny because this is a fan base that has really really learned to love youth, right? With all of our young stars and things like that, and then you go out and you trade for a guy who's 36, right? 36,
Yep.
on the
Just
border of
turned 36.
37, right? Or I'm sorry, turned 36.
Yeah.
Turned 36 on the 7th of this
Yeah,
month.
so very
Yeah,
much.
so he's 36.
Mhm.
It's just like it blows my mind because you don't really get excited for those older players anymore. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
He looks
we had
25
no.
though.
What's that?
He looks better than half of the 25-year-olds we get.
Absolutely,
That man looks
absolutely.
good for 36. He's
And,
always
and
got that
listen,
baby face.
if you give me 200 innings and if you are that solid, I'm gonna say 3 because I really want that too. But if you're that solid 3, or even if you are the 2, it's okay. It really is because it means that I think Breslow allocates resources elsewhere. I don't think
Yes.
that at the end of this offseason, it's going to be like, well, before Thanksgiving, they traded for Sonny Gray and that was it. Like, I just see this hopefully being a building block for
I think it
more and more.
has to be. It has to be because it's like my initial reaction was love Sonny Gray. who else are you getting? And then it's like, the more and more, you talk with Jordan, he'll very shortly talk us into it. But it's still like, I'm still like, but who else? Like, who else am I getting? Because this happened so early. But this is brilliant. It's like I've been hearing other people talk about this too, and the idea of it gives the Red Sox so much more leverage in going into negotiations with free agents and with trying to trade for somebody, because it's like, well, we got a guy that we think can start game 2 of any playoff series for us.
Yes.
So, you want to offer, you want us to give you like Connolly early for Joe Ryan? No, we don't need to do that. So, like, is there anybody else that you might want for him? Like, so it just gives him a little bit more, I don't know, leeway. And then the same with like, oh, I don't think we need to pay you this much. We've got our number 2. It'd be lovely to have you join our team, but at what cost? So I think it's smart to do this early, because it just gives you, especially going into the winter meetings. I think this winter meetings is going to be kind of a frenzy, because we already got a big trade from the Red Sox, and then we got one of the biggest free agent pitchers already signed. So it's like going into these winter meetings could be kind of crazy, but the Red Sox might very well have their 2, and we just don't think it because it's not as flashy.
It's so crazy that the acquisition of Sonny Gray has created this domino effect. Like you said, it affects Bayleigh everything. Every free agent that you sit with, every agent that you speak to, every other CBO or head of baseball operation or GM, whatever you want to call it, that you call in on a trade, it all now starts with an acquisition of Sonny Gray. And it's so funny because I want to laugh and I kind of want to poke fun but it's just what it does for the off-season flexibility is really insane. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think what came out the last couple of days was that there are some people in Red Sox front office who believe that Sonny Gray is not too dissimilar from Joe Ryan, which again, like I'm starting to think that they follow me on Twitter, because I tweeted
You proved it, yeah.
I tweeted the savant pages of the two right side by side. I'm like, you think Sonny Gray's hardly a 2, but you were willing to trade Jared Duran and or Willie Abreu for Joe Ryan at the deadline this past season. Here's how they stacked up against each other. And they're not that different. The only difference is I get the point is Joe Ryan's somebody we could see being in the rotation for the next 5, 6, 7 years.
Yes, it's an age thing.
And
That's all
Sonny
it is.
Gray's 36. So you're talking best case scenario. He's great for 1 year and he's gone, or you have him for like 3 years. And like that's kind of the window there. But at the same time, Joe Ryan, like so some of the bullet points that I've been getting as far as why they don't like the Sonny Gray trade. 1, bad second half last year. Joe Ryan's never had a good second half. In his career, his best second half was 2024. His ERA was 3.97. But get this, like that's okay. It's not like horrible.
Yeah.
4 starts. He got hurt. So his best second half, he didn't play. So of course his second half wasn't horrible. He wasn't around to be horrible. And history suggests if he was around, he'd have been horrible, because that's what he's been. Joe Ryan doesn't get chased, doesn't get whiff, or at least he didn't in 2025. And that's been kind of progressing as a trend since 2023. Sonny Gray got both. So Joe Ryan's fastball is better. That much is very evident, but from a secondary pitches point of view, Sonny Gray and Joe Ryan, very similar. Sonny Gray, even better as far as the slider goes. I mean, I think opponents hit 150 against it this past season with a 42% whiff rate on it. Like, pitch is pretty sick. And again, they made this trade early in the offseason and they didn't put their best trade chips in it. Like we're really getting upset about Richard Fitz and Brandon Clark. I get Brandon Clark throws 100 miles an hour. But
so do other guys.
You know who also did? Darwinson Hernandez. Like he throws.
That's so
where
true.
he is right now? Because I don't know what team he's on.
Maybe?
I know he's overseas. I think he's in either the KBO or the NPB. So. I don't remember. Yeah. But like if the Red Sox, if the barometer for being an untouchable prospect is you throw 100 miles an hour, you got some randos that are going to be kicking around high A for the next decade, because you can't trade them because they throw 100. Like Brandon Clark, I think Brandon Clark's going to be a good player, but he walked 16% of batters this past year. You can teach command, but like you got an opportunity to get a dude who doesn't walk anybody and can help you right now. And I think that's the best part of this whole ordeal is getting Sonny Gray early for nothing,
Yeah.
relatively. Like, again, it's
Yeah.
Richard Fitz and Brandon Clark. They didn't trade Connolly early for him. They didn't trade Willie or Abreu for him.
No.
They traded Richard Fitz and Brandon Clark.
You still got your big name guys. Like, and I know a lot of people are going crazy because it was like, oh, Brandon Clark's coming in as like the number 5. But that was before there was an update. And he slid to what, like 15 within like the scale of where he
I think he was
fit.
12th on Sox prospects before they
Yeah.
traded him, or somewhere in that like 8 to 12 range.
And then you've gotta give to get, because like you said, the metrics on Sonny Gray are so much better than the surface 4. What was it, like a 4.2 ERA or something?
4.28.
Yeah, so like, which isn't even that terrible, and you're only paying him 21 million. So you're technically paying him $1 million less than what, if you had done the QO for Giolito, and he's better. He's a lot better than Lucas Giolito. The only difference is Lucas Giolito's like 6'6", and Sonny Gray's 5'10", like, and somehow is able to be this good at a smaller stature. So that's when you get a lot of things being like, you'll get people that'll be like, oh yeah, it has to be like big dudes like throw nowadays. And I'm like, you know what? You could still get a little guy that's pretty damn good at throwing his pitches out there. So like kids out there, even if you're short and you want to, and short 5'10", that's bigger than the average male. So it's like, if you're, but in the scale of like, you're not 6'5", 6'6" to 6'8". Sure, I get that. Throw a baseball, because you'll somehow finagle your way to, like, I think technically he's going to be getting a check that reads like $41 million based on, but the Red Sox are only giving him like 21, which is great.
Yeah.
You got Sonny Gray for 1 year, 21. You can't do better than that. That's better than the QO. Like, that's amazing. And I love that trade, but I still just want like a little bit more, because if Sonny Gray's your 3, we go, is all I can say.
Here's just a few pitchers that Sonny Gray outpaced in WAR this past season. Well, I'll include guys he's tied with, because there's some dudes that people want that Sonny Gray is in a class with.
Okay.
He's tied with Freddie Peralta at 3.6.
Okay.
Brian Wu got hurt, so
Yeah,
he did make 2 more. Gray made 2 more starts than Wu did, so I'll take that with a grain of salt. But he tied Brian Wu. Outpaced Dylan Cease. He just got a pretty good payday from Toronto. Jacob deGrom, I saw his name thrown around a ton as there's been this talk about Texas shedding payroll, and we've seen some of that to a degree this offseason, although I don't know how much they've actually shed by swapping those contracts.
Yeah.
Joe Ryan, he had more F4 than Joe Ryan this past year. Remember when everyone wanted Merrill Kelly at the deadline? Yeah, Sonny Gray was better than him in 2025.
Yep.
Luis Castillo, that name's been thrown around since
100
like
years.
1973. Sonny Gray was better than him in 2025 as well.
Yeah.
Mitch Keller, Sonny Gray was better than him in 2025. I mean, I'm getting a little carried away here when I get to Mitch Keller, but like, Sandy, I've seen Sandy Alcantara's name thrown around. Sandy Alcantara had a 5.36 ERA and 1.7 F4 in 2025.
Yeah, I don't get those.
You know who
Sandy
doubled him
Alcantara.
up in F4? Sonny Gray.
Yeah, the Alcantara thing, and Alcantara's being paid what, like 17.5 million next year
Something
too.
like
I've
that.
never really understood that aspect. Like, yes, he started to pitch better as the season progressed. He pitched that great game against the Red Sox, but it's like you're not getting Cy Young Sandy Alcantara. So like, I don't really get that. And I hear Mackenzie Gore's name throughout there a little bit. Like, where is Mackenzie Gore following on this list of, like, because you get the people being like, well, what if you go out and get Mackenzie Gore? I'm like, is Mackenzie Gore going to be better than, like, because like that's what in people's minds, like, it's like you hear that name and you're like, oh, well, he's got to be better than Sonny Gray. And I'm like, I think Sonny Gray's better. Again, I'm not really attuned to how good, bad, or otherwise Mackenzie Gore was. I just know that's like a name.
His ERA was over 6 in the second half, Mackenzie Gore.
Yeah. So like, that's my thing, is that it's like, who are you going to get that's truly better? Like, that's why I'm to a point where it's like, I've kind of talked myself out of Joe Ryan the more and more I see how close he is and what you'd have to give up. And like, there is that one thing of like, okay, he's about 6 years younger. You could probably get him for a controllable price, buy out some free agency. He's cost controlled right now. Like, I understand that aspect when you're comparing it, but it's like, this is like a great placeholder too, at the same time with like Sonny Gray, that if you want to still go out and get that guy, you can pair it. And then you can sort of let like Tolley and Early like kind of do their thing. And then next thing you know, maybe you could say goodbye to Sonny Gray and have those guys shift up. Or if Sonny likes it here and you like Sonny, you could maybe do a 2-year kind of cheapish deal with him and you still got him. So that's why I just think like this was really smart to get him and get him now. And then you kind of go out and just maybe add your 2, or like Jordan says, maybe this is your 2 and you just go out and just add a little more depth to the rotation.
And I think the reality is your 2 starter can be any 2 or 3 guys over the course of the regular season. And that's not just the case for the Red Sox. That's the case for everybody. The problem is people got so like hell bent on, I think they conflated the idea of a number 2 with a second ace to the point where like literally they were talking about trading for guys that would make Garrett Crochet the number 2 starter.
Yeah.
Like, of course, if your expectation, which it shouldn't have been, if your expectation was Tarek Skubal, of course you're going to be disappointed in getting Sonny Gray.
Oh, 100%.
And I think some of it too is nobody really mentioned. I mean, media did, but like nobody, as far as fan base goes, until like Sadon Rafaela enjoyer, Bailey's best friend, posted about Sonny Gray 2 or 3 days before the trade happened about Sonny Gray. I wasn't seeing anybody other than myself when I posted my mock roster talk about Sonny Gray as a trade target. And then, so I think part of it is, oh, we didn't think of him as a trade target. Therefore, he must not have been worthy of us thinking of him as a trade target. Therefore, he sucks. And that's not true. And maybe he disappoints. Who knows? But at the same time, no matter who you get, you're not getting where you want to go if Peyton Tolley isn't a very good major leaguer next year, and or Connolly early. If you're not getting a step forward next year for Marcelo Meyer, your lineup's going to suffer big time no matter who you get. You could sign Pete Alonso. He could hit 45 home runs. If Marcelo Meyer's a 60 WRC plus guy and can't play against lefties, your lineup's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
Like Trevor Story, like, as good as he was, and my Lord and Savior, Mr. Trevor, like that, like there's a reason projections don't like Trevor Story next year. If he stinks in 2025, you're in trouble, or 2026, you're in trouble, especially if, Roman gets hurt again. You're at some point probably going to need Tristan Casas to cover you for, 60 plus games. And hopefully he's alive for 60 plus games because that's not a given anymore. But like the guys that like we talk so much about bolstering these areas of weakness on the roster, and that's great. And we all want the Red Sox to have the American League All-Star team.
Of course.
We want that.
I want to be the Dodgers. I want
them to be the AL Dodgers.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is you can't look at your roster and be like, okay, so the 3 guys that can stay are Crochet, Chapman, and Whitlock, and everybody else goes. That's not how that works. So you're going to need these guys that are already in-house to take massive steps up. And like, again, I don't want to, like, I'm not impressed enough with Brayan Bello to like throw all my eggs in one basket and be like that guy could be your number 2 starter. But like he took such a step forward in 2025. Like he's bought another year for me. Like I'm like people are starting to float his name around as a trade chip. And I'm like, again, similar to Willier, if he's the deal breaker for Skubal, then sure. But if you're trading Bello for a year, Freddie Peralta, like no. You're trading Bello for Mackenzie Gore? No. Like I like we've seen Bello succeed in Boston. He's homegrown. You extended him already. If he ends up being your 4 or 5 starter, like he's making $9 million against the tax.
That's where you nailed it. He's already extended. He's already here. He's already on a fixed rate on arbitration. Like if he goes out and all of a sudden he gets a couple Cy Young votes or whatever, because it's not out of the realm for Brayan Bello. And I'm with Jordan on this, where he's bought me another year, where there's nights where his stuff, especially when it's in the lower third of the zone, is absolutely filthy. It's absolutely filthy. What was the game plan in game 2 against the Yankees with Brayan Bello? I'm not sure. I don't know why it was a short inning pre-assumption before that, because if anybody shoves against the New York Yankees, it's Brayan Bello.
Yeah, which is
right?
why
So
I was
like,
really
I know
hoping.
he gave up the home run, and I know he looked a little dicey early, but like I still think that Brayan Bello could have probably given us 5 or 6 okay innings, like in my game. And no, you're not pulling them in what was it, the second or whatever.
Yeah, they looked just scared and they pulled it.
Yeah, and I get that, because it is the Yankees and you were away, and you get the game 1 win, and it starts to get a little nerve wracking.
Yeah, you're going for the kill.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely,
exactly.
100%. We get it.
And I'm not disagreeing with that move. But Brayan Bello has bought himself another year in my heart. And do I think that he could really be a significant locked up? Once again, I really want to focus on that locked up, controlled piece in this roster. unless he's breaking the bank for one of these bigger names that we just keep talking about, yeah, no, I'm okay with him in this rotation. Like, and I don't see
Yeah.
a world where Red Sox fans shouldn't be okay with him in this rotation, unless you are
Mhm.
getting one of the big names that he's,
Yeah.
talked
It's
about.
it's kind of like to me when you throw a Bayo name or you throw a Willie or a Brayu, to me those guys are only going in a Scooble. Like there's really nobody else that I feel like is good enough for me to give up. It's kind of like when we went and we got Chris Sale. Yeah, you give up Yoan Moncada and you give up
Mhm.
Kopech because
Mhm.
it's Chris Sale. To me,
Yes.
outside of Terry, and then you were getting Chris Sale with controllability too. This is a
Yeah.
rental of Scooble. So I think we all have to like kind of put our minds into like how big is this package gonna be because it is just a rental. Like giving Bayo and Abreu might be an overpay for literally a season of Tarek Scooble. But to me, that's like the name that I think of that I'm willing to give up big for versus like you said, I'm not giving that up for Mackenzie Gore. Like
No.
I'm not. I'm sorry about that. It's just to me it's not happening. And I don't think that it would come close to happening with like Brezel. I don't think he would even think about that. So it's like, what's that name that you're willing to give up? And then who are you willing to just add into your rotation or into your lineup? And it comes down to just spend the damn money.
Yeah.
And we don't have to really have this conversation of who are we giving up, you know?
Yeah, I think too, like
Yeah.
what's lost on some people here with Bayo, he's still 26 years
Yeah.
old.
Yes.
He
Yes.
turns 27 on May 17th.
Mhm.
Like he can still get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's not out of the realm of possibility here. And he had a 17 start stretch in 2025 where his ERA was 269.
Yeah.
Like that, like he was a top 10 pitcher in baseball for like 3 months.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm not
He really
saying that
was.
I don't think that'll ever be the expectation for him.
No,
We're
yeah.
talking about a dude who is under team control. I mean, team control through 2030. That's a club option in 2030. And
That's
he's
awesome.
making $9.17 million a year through 2029. I don't remember what the option year is as far
That's
as
so
money goes.
good. That's such a steal.
It's a
Yeah.
fantastic contract. I think
Yeah.
we're a year away from Bayo talk as far as like if he goes out and he's kind of, this run of the mill middle of the rotation starter, like that's a replaceable commodity. We can talk trading Bayo next winter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or maybe 2 winters from now because who knows what the lockout's going to look like. And you made like that's not the kind of player you rush out of town unless he like Verdugo's it in 2026,
Yeah.
which would be insane. Like I don't think anyone would see that coming. Although
No.
we probably got pretty close in 2024 until he started throwing fastballs again.
Yeah.
But like I mean, 3.35 ERA. His under the hood metrics weren't anything special. His strikeout numbers dipped a ton. Ground balls dipped a little bit, but he kept the ball in the ballpark a lot better. His innings per outing went up. Like he was
That's
back to
huge.
eating up innings every single time out there. Like we're a year away from Bayo dialogue. Like he's 26. He's the same age as Hunter Green. I know Hunter Green's like transcendentally great, but like they're the same age. Like we're
Yeah.
talking about, oh, Hunter Green can still get better and be, a top 5 pitcher in the game.
Yeah.
Bayo can still get better. And he got a lot better in 2025, whether it doesn't look like it so much under the hood. He did. I mean, the maturity is the
That's
main
big.
thing.
Well, he
Yeah.
also,
Mhm.
not to be weirder, but he also looked physically bigger. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like his stature, like at 26 years old, I hate to say it, but you pretty much you're hitting your apex. But with an athlete, you're in those beginning years. You're still in those baby years, and he looked a little bit thicker under the jersey. You know what I mean? The shoulders were a little broader, the forearms were a little stronger. Like he looked like he was growing into his body, and it was no shock to me that from as Jordy keeps saying, May to August, you're talking about a top 10 pitcher in the AL. Like that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I don't think it's never been like an ability thing. I think a lot of it has to do with the mental, and he was going through the ringer in like 24 with the fact that his family couldn't be here, and so I think a lot of that attributed to his struggles. And now it's like the family's more settled. He pitches better, like you said, Kev. He's thicker. He's probably still like doing that thing, trying to get bigger and bigger. Now
Yes.
it's an extra year of the family being settled here. So like that all plays a factor. And I think the issue has always been the Brayan Bello being a 2, or the idea of like, oh, Brayan Bello got the, the
Just
opening
let
day
him be
start.
him.
Yeah, it's like let him get a 2 and a 3 where it's like you can get to a point where it's like, holy shit, there's no pressure. And Brayan Bello's your 4th pitcher. Like it's crazy. Like outside of like the Dodgers and Shohei Ohtani being like their 4th starter and Glass now being their worst. Like outside of that embarrassment of riches, the idea of being able to push a Brayan Bello to like a 3 or a 4 and having him settle into that, and then allowing some young person like a Tolley or an Early to really settle into a 5th spot. Next thing you know, they could just keep getting better and better, where you're just like, you have a 3-month stretch where your 4th pitcher is pitching like a number 1, like for a stretch of time. Like that would just be kind of the embarrassment of riches I want. And I think it can be attainable. It's just whether or not they're going to go out and do it, really.
Yeah, it seems like the lower the expectations get for Brayan Bello, and I'm not trying to say that he can't meet the moment. I mean, he didn't in his start against the Yankees in the playoffs, but like I don't want to make this sound derogatory, I guess to say, but like the lower the expectations, the better he does.
Yes.
Like you put him in like a very low stakes situation, like we're talking about a guy who, even if Sonny Gray is the only addition they make this offseason to the rotation, would we all be underwhelmed? Yes, I think that much is certain. But Bello is still in a position where he could have a good year and be a bullpen piece in October. Like that's where the Red Sox rotation is at right now. And I get that there's some like that Sonny Gray may be underwhelming, whether it be age, whether it be the fact that people still only look at ERA in the big 2.5.
Yep.
I don't
Yankee
know,
years.
but
A lot of
like
people
this
are holding that
rotation
against him.
and yeah, I'm
crazy.
so sick and tired
So
of
stupid. It's almost a decade
he
ago.
can't handle a big market thing.
He also
The
chose to
Yankees
come
were
here.
like,
He had to
the Yankees
waive
thought
his.
because of
I was just saying he chose to come here by waiving the no trade clause.
Yeah, and like the Yankees think that because Mariano Rivera was great at throwing a cutter, that every single pitcher on the planet had to throw a cutter, and Sonny Gray, who couldn't throw a cutter, was getting shelled because guess what? They wanted him to throw a cutter so much, and he couldn't do it. And then he left, and then he started spamming Spider Tack with "He Who Must Not Be Named" in Cincinnati.
We don't like that.
But then post Spider Tack, he maintained very very good performance in Minnesota and then St. Louis, and then he was like to what, second in Cy Young voting a few years ago.
Yeah,
like he's not that far removed. Yeah, he's not that far removed from being one of the best pitchers in the game. And again, last year, as far as F4 is concerned, there were 13 pitchers that passed him. And as far as qualifiers go, I think that number goes to like 15 if you include guys that didn't qualify. I don't know. I just think it got to the point where we were so in La La Land with Skeens and Skubal and Green and Gore and Peralta that like Sonny Gray was like, really? And like for a split second, I was like, huh, crazy. Like I thought maybe they'd get if they got Sonny Gray, a couple of those chips had fallen. They didn't get him. And it's like, oh, we pivot to Sonny Gray. And like, I'd be good with him as a consolation prize. So like it took me by surprise a little bit, but then I looked at him and I'm like, that's a good pitcher. Like that should be celebrated. They got a good pitcher. They didn't trade for Dustin May here.
Yeah, no, they got somebody really, really good that's gonna slot into 2 or 3. And I think, like, knocking on wood, like health and everything, but I mean, he throws innings and he strikes out guys. Like, and that is
guys.
And doesn't walk anybody. That's exactly what Craig Breslow loves. This is like the guy that Craig Breslow is obsessed with. And then getting in the Andrew Bayleigh lab too. I mean, I'm very excited for Sonny Gray next year.
Big fan of Gray. There's one stat in particular that I thought was very interesting because he's a dude who throws like 92 miles an hour with his fastball. And that's something that people have pointed at. And they're like, well, they traded for Garrett Crochet last year because they wanted to attack velocity and get guys that could get whiffs in the zone with their fastball. And Gray's kind of the antithesis of that. He's kind of like a 2024 Red Sox pitcher in the sense his fastball gets killed, but his secondaries are delicious. Like it's just fantastic. But as far as called strike plus whiff rate, he was third in baseball. And like swinging strike rate, he was 14th. And then his called strike rate, he was third. So called strike plus whiff rate, 30.8%. That's third in baseball among qualifiers. Garrett Crochet was 10th. So it may not look the same, but as far as getting strikes that aren't fouled off, he was one of the best pitchers in the game at doing that. Maybe it's like a couple, like maybe he throws a few less four seams and a couple more sinkers, and those pitches that aren't getting whiffed are rolled to shortstop, and hopefully Trevor Story can make that damn throw in 2026.
My brain always goes back to velocity. We're always talking about how the ball is coming out of the pitcher's hand, and we're seeing guys throw harder at a harder rate, even with a higher RPM rate. It's absolutely insane. And with Sonny Gray, what excites me about him is he doesn't have to throw 98, right, to be effective, right? So if you have Garrett Crochet going out and he's dropping 100, 101, 99, 98 in you for 7-8 innings, and then Sonny Gray comes in the very next day, the game planning is very hard as an opponent to be like, well, we just saw a guy last night throwing a sweeper and a fastball at 101, and now we got a guy who tops out at 94. It's a huge visceral difference, right? From a batter's eye. So that's something that I never really thought of until this moment of how that fits into such a high velocity, potentially rotation.
And then here comes Peyton Tolley out of the pen to remind you that 100 miles an hour still exists.
Oh shit. But yeah, I mean, I'm very excited about Sonny Gray, and I'm excited that it happened, like we keep saying, this early, because like Kev says, I don't think they're done. Whether it's going to be that number 2 that that Twitter wants, everybody on Twitter screaming for, or it's just going to be somebody else. Like somebody else, I believe, will be added, and this rotation is going to be better than it was last year. Like we need somebody to go out there. And, you're going to have, Garrett Crochet shove and say, the only other pitcher you're throwing tonight is Chapman. Like, that is it. And he's going to have that mentality. We've got that. Like, what I love so much about Crochet is he reminds me of Chris Sale. He reminds me of those aces of, like, yesteryear, where it's like, give me the damn ball, get off my mound. I'm finishing this. And then to have somebody really solid behind him, like I don't know why people are so against the idea of Sonny Gray taking the ball in a playoff game. Like I don't know why we're sitting here on November 28th and we're like afraid of that idea, because because of when he was with the Yankees, he had a couple bad starts, but he had a couple good ones thrown in there too. And it's like he's also 36 now. He's seasoned. He understands himself way better than he did as a 27, 28-year-old. And I have no problem. If you're telling me Sonny Gray or Brayan Bello is getting a ball game 2 start, I'm taking so much more of a breath, like, whew, knowing it's Sonny Gray. So it's like, you've already made yourself better. Keep doing it. And you can keep doing it. We got plenty of time. It's November 28th. We haven't even had those winter meetings yet.
Yeah, opening day's in 4 months.
Yeah.
It's a lot of time. There's a lot of time. No, don't take the time for granted. And the way that Craig Breslow's talking, and I know that he kind of went back from being like the uber transparent that everybody wanted him to be, to a little bit more politician like. But again, that's like, he's not going to give away the nuclear codes every time he talks to the media. Like he kind of has to keep it close to the vest. He's not supposed to be like, yo guys, I just got off the phone with Pete Alonso.
We're getting them.
Yo, that'd be pretty cool, right? Like that'd be pretty sick.
Sounds like a podcast, bro. Just like, yo, man.
It's like, man, he's gonna hit bombs over the monster.
Like, oh shit, Craig's calling me right now. So let's get him on the line. Like no, that's not his job. His job is to answer the question without answering the question. Like, obviously, and we get kind of sick of hearing him be like, yeah, we got to make the team better. It's like, well, no shit. like duh. But like there are so many different ways to do that, and like ways that we don't even think are possible. Again, Aroldis Chapman was the best reliever in baseball in 2025, and most people were pissed when they signed him. Again, that was more to do with off the field stuff.
100%.
But like, it's not. Nobody expected Lucas Giolito to be as good as he was, even if it was kind of fugazi. But like Garrett Whitlock survived the whole season and was like arguably a top 3 reliever in baseball. Like they we all thought Rafi Devers was going to be on the team all season. That didn't happen. Like
What a shock.
baseball's weird. Like baseball's weird.
Yep.
Like it's
What a shock.
like again, front offices are probably better at predicting things than the average Joe on Twitter, like me. But
Hey, you called Sonny Gray though.
I did call
Thinking like
Sonny
a
Gray,
GM.
and I called Dylan Cease to Toronto, which I thought was
Yeah, a
kind of
lot of people thought
crazy.
he was gonna go to the Mets because they thought that Mets gonna Met and then Uncle Stevie's gonna give him all the money. But no, Toronto's like, here's 210. Uncle Steve was
No.
probably like, shit.
No, Stearns is probably the front runner for wanting to turn Ryan Helsley into a starter because heaven forbid Stearns adds an actual starting pitcher. He watched Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta, and Corbin Burns for like 5 years, and he's like, "What if I signed Clay Holmes and made him a starter? Like, that'd be
They're wild.
that'd be fucking crazy, right? Like that's kind of the world that Stearns is living in, but." Like
Sure.
they could go out and like they just signed Vinny Capra as a minor league free agent. What if he's like an all-star next year? Like who knows? Like I mean, but those kind of moves also not Vinny Capra specifically because he had a negative OPS plus last year.
Yeah.
But like Rob Refsnyder was a minor league free agent. Well, not a
Yeah.
minor league free agent, signed a minor league deal. I love that dude with every fiber.
I need
of my
him back.
being.
We need
Like
him
if
back.
he has no fans, I've passed away. Like send a wellness check if you haven't heard from me. You haven't heard Rob Refsnyder propaganda in like 3 weeks. Put a wellness check out for me because I might not be here anymore.
I feel like he's got to come back, right? Unless he just retires, right? I feel like it's like the Red Sox are retirement for that guy at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they probably love Nate Eaton enough to let that be the replacement. I would be upset, but Nate's also like a freak athlete.
Oh, the athleticism of him, as long as he knows how to like properly run the bases, like we're good. Like,
No guarantee. He took a lot of shots to the head in September and October just by being a psycho. So
Yep.
yeah.
I wouldn't count on his IQ getting better.
But yeah, like when it comes to athleticism, yeah, Nate Eaton, of course, like definitely. But when like the idea of like Rob Refsnyder just one being just a lefty slayer, and then that everybody loves him. Like he truly is. Everybody's like, who's a leader? It's like, oh, Rob Refsnyder. Like he's that presence in there. It's like him, and that's why you got to bring Bregman back because you're gonna lose so much. Even if you don't bring Bregman back and you get both Alonso and Schwarber, which isn't happening, or you get one or two, and I understand like those could be a presence, but there was just like a different level of what Bregman was able to bring, especially with Roman Anthony.
Yeah, definitely. And then also Romy Gonzalez was a waiver wire pickup from the White Sox. Like that team was
Crazy.
historically terrible, and they got Romy Gonzalez, and he turned into being a very good player. Like again,
Yeah.
baseball's weird. Like just sometimes it just clicks for somebody somewhere. Like maybe, like again, I don't want to pretend like Sonny Gray is going to be vying for the Cy Young next year, but like, what if he was like that? I mean, I don't want to put this all out on a whim and be like, guys, be patient because Sonny Gray could hypothetically be, better than Crochet next year. But like he could be pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And it could just be like a couple of tweaks. Like a big reason Giolito came to Boston was because of Andrew Bayleigh and like identifying why he was pitching so poorly those last couple of years in Chicago. And then when he was all over the mulberry bush in 2023.
Yeah.
Sonny Gray, it could seriously just be as simple as, oh, your fastball gets killed. What if we just never threw that again?
Yeah.
Like what
And
if
and we already
your-
know they're not big on the fastballs. So.
your four seam goes away and you just throw nothing but sinkers instead of four seams now? Like, and that's your new fastball, sinker and sweeper. That's your mix, and he turns out to, go back to 2023 St. Louis days, and his ERA is like 3.1, and we're like, oh shit, like he might be an all-star this year. Like he's as much as people don't want to look at under the hood metrics, they're very good predictors of future success. And like there's a reason Sonny Gray's metrics were very good. There's a reason Dylan Cease's were very good. That's like, you think a team in 2005 is signing Dylan Cease to a $30 million a year? We'll adjust it down for inflation. A $20 million a year deal for Dylan Cease in 2005 after 4.5 ERA. No, he's probably staying in San Diego on like a 1 for 8.
Yeah.
And like rehabbing his market.
Yeah, it's just crazy how we look at the game just so differently now from those days. But it's like we still do have those that notion of like wanting that 1 and 2 punch though, because it goes back to the days of like you had Pedro, you got to pair him with that number 2, so you go out and you do the trade for another him who must not be named, but he did some good things while he was here. And
Worth
then
mentioning though, in 04, Pedro's ERA was 3.9.
yeah, he struggled a bit. They didn't bring him back. He was getting older. Let him go off to the Mets and do his thing. But it's like the idea is that like that idea of like, have they won a championship without kind of having that 1-2 punch? Because like in 07, it's like I know it's like, well, I mean, that was also like we went out and we got like the big trade for bringing in Beckett, and then of course we ended up having like a 1-2 punch because of how well, you know, Lester, but Lester was also just coming off of battling cancer and then just coming in and kind of doing his thing. Because I'm trying to really think who else in 07 did we really have to be like that
Daisuke, his
1-2.
ERA was 4.4.
Yeah.
It's true.
And
It's
then
true.
and he who must not be named was 3.87. Like
Yeah.
it was Beckett and you know an island of misfit toys. Like Tim
He was able to
Wakefield,
do it. Yeah.
R.I.P. to the
Mhm.
king that is Tim Wakefield. His ERA
Mhm.
was like 4.8 in
Yeah.
2007. So like it's not like you had, and it's different. Like it's you know different time. Like
Yeah, for
offense was
sure.
better back then, or at
We
least
had a
there was
great
like more
offense in
offense.
07. Yeah.
But
That team was so good.
like in 2013, Buchholz had a 1.74 ERA, but he made like 15 starts. He got hurt, and by the time he came back, he was not the same guy.
Yeah.
Like Lester was your ace.
Yep, you
3.75
had
was his ERA.
Lester, and you went out and got Lackey, so you kind of like supplemented with like the two to go with like Lester, who was never like, I know people love Lester. Lester was never like the, oh my god, this is a true ace. He was always like a really good 2, but you still always had like really good pitchers, and then you had the true 1-2 punch when you went out and got David Price, and then you know the following off season you went and got Chris Sale, and you had like co-aces. So I guess that's the only true championship team where you had those co-aces. But even in that season, Sale got hurt a little bit. So, and then thankfully we had, David Price pitch his ass off and, earn every single cent of that $217 million. See, that's another thing that it brings it back to. How much is like a contract worth when you win? To me, everything we went through with David Price was worth it for that 2018. And you don't win without him. So it's like that money was well spent because you got a ring,
Yeah. And like you could say the same thing about Lackey too. Like,
Yeah.
like I've never seen outside of when Aaron Hernandez like literally allegedly killed guys. Cause I guess legally speaking, he's not a convict. He's not a convicted murderer. Before that, like I haven't seen a bigger 180 done on a player quite like John Lackey. Like
Yeah.
everyone hated him, and for good reason. Like he was very disappointing for 3 years. Like he was okay in 2010, off like worst pitcher in baseball in 2011, and the chicken and beer thing added insult to injury there. And then he literally missed all of 2012 with recovering from Tommy John.
Yeah.
And then 2013, he was awesome.
Yeah.
And you don't win the World Series without him. Like he became like playoff John Lackey was like a legitimate thing. And then he was even better in 2014. And then you got Alan Craig and Joe Kelly for him, which is hilarious how that deal went. Like it worked out because Joe Kelly was a
great.
but Joe Kelly was awesome in October. That was like the only reason that trade worked out. So
yeah. So like that's the thing is like when you look at it, or when you're even looking at constructing this team going into 2026 and saying like who's your number 2, like you don't know who could pan out throughout the season. You don't even know that like you're doing really well at the deadline. What if you get your 2 at the deadline? And then that 2 is a big reason why you win. I mean, in 2013, like they got Jake Peavy, and that was able to sort of help them, bolster the rest of the season into the playoffs. So it's like you kind of just don't know what your team is going to look like in July. Like your team could just get better. You could get that true second pitcher behind Crochet then, especially if you've pitched as well as you think you can up until then. So it's kind of like, who is going to be the true hero in October? Do you think that any Dodger fan thought that Miguel Rojas was going to hit that home run? No.
Dodger if they did, they were related to Miguel Rojas.
Yeah. No, they were sitting there peeing themselves, being like, we're about to lose the World Series. And then Hoffman just throws the shittiest pitch you've ever seen, and boom, it's gone. And so it's like, but that's baseball. You just don't know who's going to contribute in the now. You just really want to build the team to your best abilities. And I've never been like don't spend recklessly, like, because spending recklessly is Anthony Rendon, who's about to collect a shitload of money and never play the game that he hates. again. It's like that's the thing with the Dodgers is like they've spent all this money, but they've never truly spent it recklessly. It's like, yeah, it's a lot of money, but they've already got 2.5 rings out of it, so they're sitting pretty. And like, just so that's why it's like, I like that balance of like building from within and then spending like wisely. And I always think that John Henry's kind of the guy that like he'll spend when he thinks it's time. And I want him to think that it's time right now, to spend it wisely.
I'm not sure there would be a better time to spend than right now. Like
Right?
you've already got Roman locked up, you've already got Campbell
Yes.
locked up, you've already got, Crochet locked up. Like now would be the time.
Right?
But yeah, I know we're coming up on an hour and a half. We're about to lose Kev. I can see my men's fighting.
I'm fighting. I lost the stamina.
It's okay, man. I'm right there with you. If my chair was half as comfy as your seat is right now, dude, I'd be
out.
I'd be zonked. It is 10 p.m. over here on the East Coast.
It's still normal for me. That's why
yeah.
I'm ready to go. But I understand your time.
Bailey's ready. Bailey's ready for like a nice little 15-minute intermission, Wicked style, and we'll come back and come back for another hour and a half. And similar to the reviews I've heard for another hour and a half, I promise you,
it would not be as good. It might be darker and edgier though, because that's what Wicked Part 2 is, darker and edgier. So that's why I enjoyed it more. But it's a hot mess. It's hot mess.
At a certain point, it definitely the shit that comes out of my mouth when I get tired, it's like, all right, it's time to wrap it up.
You're just gonna see my forehead on the camera on my laptop. That's all you're gonna see.
He's gone.
Yeah, it's gonna be an hour and a half of Bailey and I staring at Kev's forehead on the camera. Oh man. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Socks,
hell yeah.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a good off season. I'm excited for the winter meetings, excited for 2026. Let's get it.
Yeah, should be fun. And so far, this is like I don't need all the free agents to sign right away. It doesn't have to be like the NFL, where like within an hour of free agency starting, every big free agent has already locked up with another team. I'm cool with throw me a bone every week to 10 days of like a big fish signing somewhere, and I'm chilling. I think there's going to be some action at the winter meetings. I think there's going to be at least one big trade. It may not involve the Red Sox, but I think there's going to be a big trade at the winter meetings this year. It's just got that vibe to it. Maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid too much because of the Cease signing and the Gray trade, but and the Nimmo for Semien trade that we didn't even talk about that. And I'm not trying to open that can of worms. Kev's gonna fall asleep in a second. So, but. Like there's been some action so far, so it's encouraging. It's definitely better than what we've gotten used to in the baseball world. But yeah, that'll do it for this edition of the Pesky Report, episode 532, presented by Beyond the Monster. For Kev and Bailey, I'm Jordan. Until next time, peace out and go Sox.